So I'm back from Belize and I had an amazing trip. And I wanted to take this moment to check in because I haven't posted a video in about 2 weeks. I took some time off just to rest and recover from the trip. I got a little sick when I was there, and so it just took some time for me to recover. And also, I needed some space from YouTube to reorient myself and reassess and figure out what it is that I'm actually doing with this channel, what my outcomes are, what it is that I want from this experience and what I want for my viewers. But I wanted to take this moment to just reflect a little bit about that experience of preparing for Belize from a video making standpoint, as well as a physical training standpoint. And then I've also written quite a bit about my experience. And so in my next following videos, I'll likely share some stories from my trip to Belize. So first thing, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my process, because when I started this journey 2 months ago, roughly, I told everyone that I was taking them on this journey with me of training. And I did, but it didn't quite fulfill the vision that I had established for myself. I had thought that I'm going to do all of this physical training and then all of these skills training, and I'm going to document the whole thing and edit it and then upload it for all of my viewers to tag along in this process. But what I found out was that making videos is time consuming. To apply the process, a lot of my process involves just me sitting here and talking into the camera, but to take the camera somewhere else and film me doing a thing and demonstrating it, that's something else. That takes more time, right? So documenting my whole life, my whole training regimen, honestly, it didn't get done. I had an intention of doing this physical things of building my heat tolerance and barefoot conditioning and building my ruck strength, which you got to see a lot of that part. But what you didn't get to see was the physical workouts that I was doing, the weightlifting, the yoga, the meditations, the mental training that was involved. I wanted to include a lot of the skills-based training, like fire starting and knot tying and making traps and stuff. But honestly, with the technical aspects of video making, which is, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm still learning, all of that took time. And so I didn't even get around to practicing the skills-based training that I wanted to do. Fortunately, it wasn't as necessary. We had a very competent guide with us, so I didn't need to rely on those levels of skills. But I was also disappointed because I wanted to practice that. I genuinely wanted to improve in those areas. I know that some parts of my survival training is not complete. I've learned a lot of things, but I haven't necessarily implemented them. And implementation is like 80% of learning. I listened recently to this podcast by Graham Cochran, and he's a business coach. And he talks a lot about, in his latest podcast, about how a lot of us are just addicted to learning stuff. I might be one of those people because I love reading. I love watching YouTube videos. I love listening to podcasts. I love a good course. I love taking classes. I've got an immense amount of notes in my computer and my phone. My notes app has over 1,000 notes in it. And so I'm a big lifelong learner. And having been a teacher for 10, 12, I forget how long it's been now. I think we're approaching 13 years. I am a natural lifelong learner. But a lifelong implementer of my learning, that's something else. That's next level. That's where the real learning happens, actually. But many of us are kind of turned off by that. I was talking with one of my colleagues about it, my good friend and colleague, that we had this conversation about implementation versus learning. And many of us often shy away from the doing part of the learning because it's difficult. It's messy. It's the messy middle of the learning, but it's also like the process towards mastery. It is the part that gets us to proficiency. It's the part that gets us to be able to develop a nuanced point of view, a perspective that teaches you, well, it gives you the feedback that you actually know what you're talking about. You can read things in a book, and I've made other videos about this. You can read things in a book, but it doesn't mean that you really know them. And even reflecting on what you have read is not the same thing as doing the thing that you read about. I just finished reading this book I shouldn't say I finished it. I'm mostly finished reading this book about understanding bird language, which is about understanding what's happening in the wilderness. What are the birds concerned with, and how does that inform your awareness of what's going on out there in the wild? And I read the book. It's a great, entertaining read. I took rigorous notes on the process, and I can conceptually understand what it's about. But the back 20 pages of the book or so are all practical exercises to practice the things in the book. And I haven't started those yet. And so this idea of implementing your learning, why I brought up Graham Cochran was that he mentioned that what he called an 80-20 rule, where you spend 80% of your time, or I should say 4 times as long, implementing a skill than it took you to learn it. So your 20% is the learning process, the classical learning of like book reading and note taking and course taking, listening to a podcast. All of that learning, what we consider to be learning, is done for X amount of time. And your implementation of that skill should be 4 times as long as it took you to learn it. So if you listen to a podcast and you learn how to learn about something for an hour, you should go implement it for 4 more hours after that. Or if you're in a week-long workshop, if it takes you all week to learn it, then you should spend 4 more weeks really like driving that play, like really implementing the learning so that you can achieve mastery. Now, a lot of people have feelings about that term, mastery. Mastery is never a destination, it's a journey. There's no achieving mastery. And the real masters know that. That's why they are forever students and what we call lifelong learners. But if you're a learner who just sits on the couch and reads and takes notes, you're an armchair learner. Learning is about doing. It's about getting into the field and practicing. I am a trained survivalist, but I don't know that I'm actually a learned survivalist. I'm not a master survivalist because I haven't put in the dirt time to practice. So all of that to say that documenting my life was time consuming, and I needed to make a lot of mistakes in learning about filming myself. In fact, it seems like there's this benchmark of 100 videos or up to 150 videos to get your first 1,000 subscribers or whatever, like to make it as a YouTuber. And if you make a video a week, it goes by pretty quickly. If you make 3 videos a week, it goes by a lot faster. And when I say a video, I mean a long form video, not like a short, not YouTube Shorts. That's something else. But this benchmark of 100 videos is your sandbox in which to make all of the mistakes possible. In my videos, I'll insert the clip here, I filmed long form video in a vertical format on my cell phone because I was out hiking. And so I've got my phone out here doing the phone thing, talking into my phone. And then I upload it as a YouTube video. But then because it's longer than a short, they were like 15-minute videos or something, it's oriented in a vertical format, whereas I should have been recording it horizontally. It's just one of those rookie mistakes that you got to make because, are you going to learn that in a class? Is that something they can teach you in a classroom? Or is that just one of those mistakes you have to make out in the field? That is the pathway to mastery because you realize these mistakes and then you stop making them. Other mistakes I made, other rookie mistakes, was I forgot to mic up, both indoors and outdoors. To the jungle in Belize. The importance of packing correctly for such an environment is crucial. One thing that I noticed in this process was that when I started making outdoor content, it increased my male viewership by 45%. So now most of my viewers are males, whereas when I was talking about philosophy and psychology, I had about an even split between males and females. So that was interesting, I guess, something to note. But it also highlights something in my content. It's a question I've been rolling around in my brain for a while as far as what do I want this channel to be about? Since these first 100 videos, and when I say 100 videos, I mean with little asterisks next to it, maybe 150 videos. What do I want this first batch of videos to really represent? I want to use this time to be experimental. I want to explore all of these different interests that I have and see what is valuable to other people. I want to find something that I can talk about a lot and that other people will also find interesting and valuable. And I get to see all of that through the stats of the videos. I get to see what people click on and what they don't. but it does all reach a bottleneck, a choke point of how good my videos are. It doesn't matter if I can talk at length about something and if people find it interesting, but if my videos are bad, then people won't watch it. And so then I get skewed data. And that's what I'm finding is the challenge of this experience. And that's kind of a longer term video making problem. But going back to the Belize preparation, another thing I learned was that I'm aging and my physical recovery takes longer. And so I had scheduled far too many physical outcomes for the short amount of time that I gave myself. I gave myself 6 weeks of training window, when I probably should have given myself only 1 or maybe 2 outcomes, but instead I had 6 outcomes. So I should have given myself 6 times as long to get them done. My first one was to build heat tolerance because I was going to the jungle and I've never experienced jungle heat before. That kind of humidity was actually, man, I was just wet all the time, just sweating the entire week. And the guy that I was with didn't appear to be sweating at all or drinking any water. He drank maybe half as much water as I did. And I was putting down like 2 gallons a day, something crazy like that. I was also trying to condition my feet. So I did some barefoot videos. You can go back and watch those if you're interested. I was increasing my pack weight so I could hike 6 or 7 miles carrying a 40-pound pack. And that was good. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I conditioned my feet. I'm glad I built in the heat tolerance, and I'm glad I built up to backpacking again, because that was something I hadn't done in like 20 years. I had also injured my shoulder about 2 months ago, and I had tweaked it, or I hurt it lifting weights or something like that. I don't even remember how I hurt it, but I just stayed off it for a while, and it healed itself. So that was fortunate. I didn't have to do anything with that. Another outcome of mine was to deepen my awareness through daily sit spot practice and studying the bird language. So just expanding my awareness to be able to detect what's going on out there and also internally, and to be able to read tracks better. And because tracking is not just about footprints, it's also about sign, about seeing what's going on around you and situational awareness. So I did a little bit of that, but like I said, I didn't really implement it. I studied a book, I took rigorous notes, and that was the end of it. I haven't gotten around to the practice part of it yet. And that's a long-term thing. I also wanted to practice one core survival skill per week, like shelter building or fire building or water filtration or building traps. I didn't get to any of that. Like I said, it fortunately didn't matter, but I mean, we did do some of that practice while we were there, and it wasn't such of a life and death situation as I anticipated it would be. So that was nice. That was good, I guess. But it's all kind of wrapped up in this, I have too many things that I'm learning issue. So many things that I'm learning that I'm not practicing them enough. And so maybe that's my biggest takeaway from all of this process reflection, is to be able to prioritize my practice and recovery and learning in a sort of balanced way, finding the right ratio. He recommends the 80-20 rule, that I practice 4 times as long as the time that I learn. I think I'm going to start trying that. I'm going to start taking account of how much time I spend learning a thing, whether it's reading a book. If it takes 10, 12, 20 hours to read a book, I'm going to go practice this thing for 80 hours. Just like, I'm going to try that. I don't know. I'm not going to document it. I'm not going to film it. Maybe I'll make another video if there's enough interest, but I'm going to try it. And if you're one of those people like me who is also an avid learner, but you're not an avid doer, then maybe I encourage you to try that out too. And I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Anyway, I'm running up on 18 minutes on this video, so I'm going to cut it, and I will share with you some of my adventure stories from Belize in the upcoming videos. I got the next one I'm going to film right here as soon as I'm done recording this one is a story of my cave diving experience. So when that's done, I'll put the link right here. So we'll see you in the next one, and see you out there.